Good morning. Thank you, Francesca, for sharing your beautiful music with us this morning. That was truly heavenly. Not only is Francesca a beautiful musician, as all of you just heard, but Francesca is also a nurse at Altman Hospital. Francesca, how long have you been, first of all, how long have you been playing the harp?
I've been playing the harp since 1985.
Wow.
Yes.
Amazing.
I've
I've joked with Francesca before, with a beautiful name such as Francesca, you must be born with a harp in your hand. But no, truly lovely. And how long have you been a nurse at Altman?
I've been a nurse almost I started in August of 2002.
Okay.
So it's been almost 19 years.
Wow. And what department do you work in?
I've always worked in the infusion therapy department.
Okay.
Shout out to all my girls there. I love them like family. That's
Aw,
absolutely.
that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your gifts and your talents, not only musically, but for what you do every day at Altman Hospital. Francesca, one of the things that we're asking everyone along the way, which people hear on Friday, but what does Altman mean to you?
Altman is like my second family. I've made friendships there. The girls that I've worked with, some of them, I've been friends with them now for almost 20 years. They're like my sisters. And it means everything to me. The patients that I take care of, we're mostly oncology. We take care of cancer patients. I'm so excited for the new building, the Timken Family Cancer Center that they broke ground with just last Wednesday, just a week ago.
So
that's
exciting.
very exciting.
Awesome.
It's just another family to me.
Oh,
That's what it
well,
means to me.
thank you so much, Francesca. Thank you for being here this morning, and we're looking forward to hearing you again at the end of our morning. So we'll see you in a few.
Thank you.
All right. Again, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Calling All Angels. Today's theme is honoring our Women's Board legacy. If you're tuning in for the first time today, welcome. We're so happy to have you join us. And if you're tuning back in, thank you for joining us this week as we celebrate and honor healthcare heroes at Altman Hospital. But today we're so excited as members of the Women's Board, which is a group of currently we have 270 volunteers that over the past 50 plus years have raised more than $30 million to support Altman Hospital. That's some serious hustle.
It is.
And although we're unable, obviously, to have our in-person event, we truly just want to acknowledge the amazing work of the Women's Board members, not only in years past, but everyone helping us in preparation for this angel auction, this new format. We appreciate each and every one of you, and we can't wait till we are joined together again. Just a reminder to everyone that our online auction is now open, callingalangels2021.org. You can purchase raffle tickets, bid on items, make a donation, name your angel, and so much more.
Okay. And since today is all about the Women's Board, you'll meet a few of our members later in the morning, and you'll also hear from the Altman Foundation leadership team. But to get us started, we want to share some footage with you that was actually created for the Women's Board's 50th anniversary. So grab your cup of coffee, sit back, and enjoy.
The Women's Board of Altman Hospital was founded back in 1969. Since that time, these hard-working ladies have led fundraising efforts for Altman Hospital. To date, more than $28 million in funding has been raised to support many major projects around our organization. The nearly 300 members of the Women's Board of Altman Hospital raise funds through 2 annual major projects, the Angel Auction and the Fashion Show, and through other third-party fundraisers. This outstanding group of women have helped to improve many areas within Altman Hospital, not only providing new equipment to a variety of programs, but also developing new infrastructure. The time, talent, and treasure provided by the dedicated members of our Women's Board is truly a blessing to our organization. In 2019, the Women's Board of Altman Hospital celebrated their 50th anniversary. Not only do we want to thank these amazing women, but we wanted to honor their long, strong, and committed history of continuing our mission to lead our community to improved health. Therefore, at the 50th anniversary of the Angel Auction held in May of 2019, we unveiled our big plans, and then we commissioned for a beautiful angel art sculpture to be placed in our Bedford lobby at the hospital. Local artist David McDowell of Canton spent nearly a year and a half designing and sculpting an amazing 8-foot-tall angel that will overlook and bless our lobby. We can't thank David enough for his hard work, time, and energy that he spent in creating this unique, incredible piece of art.
My name is David McDowell, and I was commissioned by the Altman Women's Board to transform their two-dimensional logo into a three-dimensional sculpture, which was quite a challenge. Nothing in 2020 has gone according to plan for anybody, and this sculpture has not been exempt from that. The original plan was to sculpt it out of aluminum. We went a different route, and it's actually better that we did, because that allowed us to create a wider and taller wingspan than we would have had otherwise. Previously, we were limited by the smallest doorway at the hospital. Now, we are able to make the wings modular and bring the sculpture in to the hospital in 3 pieces, combine it into one on site, and it will look like one solid metal piece of sculpture when it is finished. It was quite a challenge, but ultimately, it was a good learning experience for me. I had to come up with a solution that was very unexpected. We went the route of coating the foam version of the sculpture with a real metal layer that ended up giving a better finish and a better overall form than I originally thought I could actually achieve. So Plan B is often better than Plan A. Jim Dawson at Synergy Sign, Vic George at Guylog Aluminum Foundry, and Courtney Halter have all been incredibly helpful on this project, and I would not have been able to finish this project had it not been for their help. Also worth mentioning is Rob Hankins. I'd like to say thank you to him for helping me make the connection professionally between my business and Altman Hospital. So I'm very happy to have done this sculpture. Thank you to Ed Roth and everyone on the Altman Women's Board, and I'm very much looking forward to popping in from time to time and seeing how she's holding up.
On behalf of Altman Health Foundation, we are proud to dedicate this beautiful piece of art to the Women's Board of Altman Hospital, and we honor their 50 years of committed volunteer service and fundraising to our organization. Thanks to all the Women's Board of Altman Hospital for the difference they make for so many in our community.
Well, welcome back. What a wonderful video to see those images. Today, we have 2 very special guests with us. We have Lisa Zellers. Lisa is the executive of the Altman Foundation, who is the vice president of the Altman. Yes.
Thank you for being here today.
We've got a lot of energy. Vicki, we thought we started with you. If you could tell us, you know, for our viewers that aren't familiar with the Altman Foundation, you know, a little what the foundation does for the community, kind of when.
Oh boy. Yeah, this one, because about 15 years ago, I remember when Mr. Roth said that we're going to start a foundation because we really had a formalized way to money to bring it into the organization or to give it out, even though we gave a lot to the community. So it took about 13 years now we've been active with it. Since its inception, we've given out over $2 million in grants to the community. And the nice thing is we all know that all people in our mission to the community and said we focus on giving out to all those areas in need. We base it on the community needs assessment, so we're focusing on mental health, access to health care, the addiction issues in the community, food insecurities. There's a lot of different areas that really are in great need. So it's a formalized process. We have a great board, which Lisa Zellers heads up right now, and she does a phenomenal job with that. And it's one of the things that you learn so much about the community when you're out there, because I had no idea how many small nonprofits out there really need money, but they also do not have a lot of the big grant writers and people like that that really are able to write formalized grants. So we make it as easy as possible. Online, you can get an application to give out for grants. We do it once a year, and just so happens tomorrow's our formal board meeting. We're finalizing this year's rounds of grants, and then they will be announced to the community. So it's really a great, it's just wonderful. I've been proud to actually head that up, and it was a great idea on Ed's part to get it started.
Oh, that is so wonderful. I'm sure you hear, year after year, from your grant recipients, and talk about the success of their programs based on
we
their
do.
grant dollars.
And actually, we have one of the grant recipients come to one of our board meetings every time we have a board meeting to go over things and just basically thank us. And it's emotional at times because there's a lot of need out there. So I'm glad that we can do this. So
Oh, that's wonderful. Planting seeds in our community.
Thank you.
It's wonderful.
Yes, thank you. Lisa, would you be able to tell us a little bit about the Women's Board contributions over the years and the impact that they have made at Altman?
It's been tremendous, Lindsay, and you and Jody and Vicki know. The Women's Board was established back in '69, and for 52 years, we have remained true to that mission of community relations and fundraising in our community. $30 million, like you said, that's quite a hustle.
Yeah.
It is tremendous. But I think the one thing that we don't always talk about is the impact from that community relations and all of the connections that the Women's Board has allowed us, enabled us at Altman to make. And that is something that's really, frankly, immeasurable, the advocacy and all the community support. So it's been tremendous. And, over 20 projects have been funded through the generosity and through the volunteer leadership of our Women's Board. Everything ranging from parking expansion to pediatrics, our Compassionate Care Center, of course, and obviously the Timken Family Cancer Center, but Trauma Center, and also a great deal of support for our Altman College students. So it's really been wide-ranging all across many specters there of Altman Hospital.
Wonderful, thank you.
Do either of you have maybe a favorite pledge or project that we've worked on in previous years?
And real quick, before we jump on that, Lisa, could one of you touch on a little bit how we get a pledge or how the Women's Board decides where these dollars are going to be allocated?
Absolutely. I'll touch on that, and then Vicki can
Perfect.
share her favorite first. So, as we all know, what happens is our CEOs, either Mr. Ed Roth or Tony Snyder, CEO of Altman Hospital, bring priority projects to the Women's Board membership. And what they do is they will share the opportunity, and the Women's Board vote. So it's really, truly a decision by the Women's Board as to what pledge, what project that they take on. And depending upon the size of the project, it can be something that they fundraise for, 1, 2, 3, or several years to be able to accomplish that pledge. Timken Family Cancer Center is a great example, a $5 million pledge, which was just instrumental. And I believe that took about 6 or 7 years to be met. So the projects are brought to us by our CEOs, and the Women's Board actually choose what project they want to make a difference.
Awesome.
Yeah. A favorite, Vicki? Do you have a favorite
A
project?
favorite? Okay, well, this is really hard. Through my years, there 36 years, I do have a couple favorites, but I do remember distinctly working with Candy Wallace on the Compassionate Care Center, and I will tell you that was It was a lot. It was like a smaller version, but of like the Cancer Center now that we've worked on. But Candy's heart and soul was into that project, and she had us angels. All the angels were just working like crazy. The wings were flapping to get the money raised. So actually, $3.5 million was raised for that, and it was a lot of work. And the ladies worked over 5 years. I think Candy said close to 7 since its inception to finally make that happen. And that Compassionate Care Center is, I know all of us have been touched and had family or friends there, and it's just truly incredible. So it's a blessing.
It is, and we're actually going to be hearing from Candy a little later today
Yes.
as she shares her experience and involvement with the Compassionate Care Center. So that's wonderful.
Now there's a couple other. Can I quickly tell
Oh,
you about
absolutely.
another one?
Please,
This one just
absolutely.
stands out to everyone's mind. I think it was in 2002. Joyce Spring and Melanie Sheets were chairing the angel auction, and somehow, miraculously, in May, right before the auction, the angels that were on top of the courthouse, they were being renovated. They were being refurbished, and somehow they managed to get those angels at the Civic Center, downtown Canton. And you know how large these are. They're huge. And we were worried getting them there and getting them back safely, but it worked out beautifully. And that is very memorable to me. And then another thing, I have to give Joyce Spring credit for this. Little Romeo, our doggie, is 15 years old, and Romeo was one of the dogs that we got at the angel auction, and he's still going strong. I was going to bring him today, but I thought he might rip
That
up
would've been
everything.
great.
But I know you girls too have dogs from the auction, so it's just incredible. So those are three that just stick out to my mind, but the ladies have done a great job with actually every single one of them.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing. Anytime I'm downtown and I look up and I see those courthouse angels, I always think I was at that auction.
That's right.
And I always think of that evening. So thank you for sharing.
And thank you so much for Vicki for championing the Women's Board all these years, and also all of your work with the community. Vicki's actually going to be retiring. Is it next month, Vicki?
Yeah, end of June.
And
End of June.
What an exciting new endeavor for her, but you will be so greatly missed. And I've told Vicki this, and as well as almost anyone I know, I've always admired Vicki from the moment I met you at Altman Hospital. I would always say when I get older, I want to be just like Vicki. Her passion for the community overflows, her dedication to Altman Hospital, and she truly is a light to everyone she touches. So thank you so much, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
In
You
your
girls
next
are
chapter.
phenomenal, and it's been a blessing to me because I've had the opportunity to work with both of you through the years too, and I couldn't be more proud of all of our angels. So thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you so much for joining us. All right. At this time, we're going to have the opportunity to hear from Altman Women's Board President Judy Minton as she talks about her experience working years with the Women's Board and what it means to her. Please meet Judy.
The Women's Board is a group of 270 women who are dedicated to supporting Altman Hospital through fundraising and community engagement. My favorite Women's Board projects have been, actually there are three. One is the Hospice Center, and that is one of my favorite because I just think that's such a great service to the community. My second one is the Cancer Center. As a cancer survivor, I know what that means to the community, and I'm very proud of our involvement with that. And the third is our project for our 50th year, which was 50 for 50. And I really enjoyed that because we got to go and give whatever the individual departments needed. And it was so great to feel the effect that our dollars actually have to them.
Well, it was wonderful to hear from Judy. It's interesting. I think that, every pledge means a little something different to every member. For Judy, as a cancer survivor, the Cancer Center is near and dear to her. For me, I joined the Women's Board in 2005, and right around that time, the Women's Board committed to raising $3.5 million for the Compassionate Care Center. Also, around that time, my grandfather passed away, and I was extremely close with him. So it was a difficult time for me, for my family. And Stark County didn't have a hospice facility. And while my grandfather received excellent care, and we were able to be with him at his bedside, during those final days, to be a part of that project was just so meaningful to me, and really to be a part of it from start to finish. I remember going to the ribbon cutting ceremony. I remember opening up the paper a few days later and seeing that the center welcomed their first patient and their first family. And thinking back, I was in my 20s at the time. I couldn't necessarily, financially contribute much, but I donated my time. And I'll never forget that. It just meant a lot to me to be a part of that. And it's such a good reminder why I'm a women's board member, why I do what I do, why I'm so proud to be a part of this organization, both the Women's Board and Aultman Hospital. So again, I think every member has a personal connection to different pledges, and that's mine. So Linz, I know that you have a personal connection to Aultman as well. So do you maybe want to share your story?
Sure. Even leading up to this, as we've been conducting these many interviews and talking to people, the one takeaway that it's personal. And everyone's story is different. Everyone, what Aultman means to them, or why they care, or why it matters, it's personal. And I've been kind of reflecting on this. Jody's got me all emotional. Just been reflecting on this kind of a lot lately. When people say, why do you do what you do? How did we end up here? Why are we co-chairing the angel auction? And Jody and I actually have kind of a neat little story that I'd like to share. When I was an intern in college up at Kent State, I needed an internship in public relations, and I would have never thought of a hospital until my parents suggested, why don't you apply at Aultman? So I did, and I go bebopping in the doors for the first time, and I meet this one who is interviewing me and for the position as an intern.
For the record, though, I was not that much older.
No, she wasn't. And ironically, Jody was actually in the exact same program at school, just a couple years ahead of me. So we just sort of missed each other. But I ended up meeting Jody. I ended up getting hired as an internship. That turned into a job, fortunately, at Aultman. And Jody, and this was literally like 20 years ago. And Jody and I became fast friends, coworkers. I remember the first year she asked me if I wanted to volunteer for the angel auction because they need some help in the accounting room. And I was like, whoa, we get to go to this fancy event and get dressed up. And had the time I remember going to get my hair done, and we were little flies on the wall of this magical scene. Yeah. Kind of the who's who event, people gathering to support Aultman. And fast forward, life happens. Oh, we also became roommates at the time. Yeah. So we were
downtown Canton.
Yeah, girls in the city at the time, which we had so many great memories and experiences living together, working together. Fast forward, life happens. Both got married. But Aultman is sort of where for both of us in many ways, began our official adulting in the world. It's where I had my baby. I know you had your babies there. So many different experiences on the way. But going back to, it's personal. Oh, and also getting involved in the Women's Board years ago and being surrounded by such a great group of ladies working together for a great cause.
Yeah. I always say it's women supporting women, which is just really cool.
It is. And one of the questions, as I asked Francesca, and actually you'll see on Friday when we compile this segment, when we ask people, what does Aultman mean to you? And going back, it's very personal. And I started thinking, when you typically are at Aultman, anyone in the community, anyone that has a family member, anyone that's there personally, and whether it's a happy time, such as having a baby, or a really sad time, you're vulnerable. And it's when you're in your most vulnerable positions, who's caring for you? And it comes back to that care. And we were just talking a little earlier, and about 1.5 years ago, Aultman means so many things to me for so many ways. But I got a call that my dad, they suspected that he had a heart attack. He was driving back actually from the Hall of Fame game. And taken Altman, and I quickly grabbed my mom and my daughter and went there, hoping that it would be a spell, expecting that it would be, we'd go down to the ER and they'd open the bin and there'd be my dad, and unfortunately that was not the case. And received the saddest news imaginable. But it was in that most vulnerable moment of my life where I lost my dad, my mom became a widow, my daughter lost her grandpa. But it was in that care, that comfort, when you were at your darkest moment. And I will never forget that. But I know there's so many people that have their own experiences, their vulnerability, and who is it that's caring for you? And, just leaving the hospital that day, our lives were changed forever. But that's why I have the passion for Altman, for many ways, and just with Jody working on this together, it's great. It's just come full circle for us as friends, as coworkers, and to be able to do something that's so much different than which we initially signed up for, but to be able to give back, that means everything. And to do it with my friend, there's no one I'd rather be here with.
I echo those same sentiments. It was an honor to have been asked to do this and to do it alongside my friend Lindsay.
Cheers, darling.
Oh, cheers. With
Cheers.
our merchandise that you can purchase
Calling
on
all
our
angels
website.
mugs.
So along those lines, again, personal to each and every member, their involvement. So at this time, it's a great segue. We're going to introduce Candy Wallace. Many of you know Candy. She has been a women's board member since 1983. And she's held a variety of women's board leadership positions, including Angel Auction Chair in 1990. This is when there was only one Angel Auction Chair. She didn't have a partner in crime like I do. Okay. And she also served as Women's Board President from 2001 to 2003. So let's hear Candy's story.
I was president of the Women's Board, and we had gotten a bequest from one of our dear members who'd passed away. She left money for a new project for the Women's Board, and I began with a committee of people researching what the community was missing. We found that we needed what became the Compassionate Care Center. It was a way to provide grief services for people who were at end stage of life. We wanted to have a place where people could go for that end of life care that wasn't in a hospital room, where their family couldn't be all around them, where they had to come in 2 at a time, or we wanted a home-like environment. We wanted it to be that moment in time where you could say everything that you wanted to say and be with the people that you loved the most and have it be perfect. So we created that. We built it. This was a huge project for us. It was 7 years of my life dedicated to making that become a reality. And the thing that is the most heartwarming for me now is what I hear from people. They'll say, when they see me in the grocery store, oh, my uncle was there, oh, my child was there. It just makes that next stage of life, that end stage of life, something that can be whatever the person and the family want.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Candy, for identifying a need, rallying your troops around, and as a result, we are so fortunate to have the Compassionate Care Center here in our community. I mean, you always hear so many positive things, and it's wonderful. So thank you, Candy. So on the Women's Board, in preparation for a typical angel auction, we have several committees. We have items and services, people that are out there asking for donations. We have a decorations committee because we literally have transformed the Civic Center. If you live around here and you've ever been to the Civic Center, imagine that looking like a magical paradise. It takes some work.
Takes some effort, yes.
And fortunately, they do. We have a dinner committee, which was actually always my favorite to be on, because you get to go and
Taste
try the
test.
food and taste test. And it really is an army with so many different committees that would put together the angel auction. And being on the women's board or involved with the angel auction for more than 10 years, there was always this very mysterious committee, the quilt committee. And I know nothing about quilting or sewing, but I know every year at the angel auction, there'd be a beautiful quilt that would go in our live auction and often go for a lot of money. And Candy Wallace actually has headed up the quilting committee for many years. And it's just kind of, again, been a staple in our auction, part of our history, part of tradition. I've always thought what they do is amazing, even though I really don't know much about what they do. But we had the opportunity to chat with Candy as she spoke about the Compassionate Care Center and also about the quilts. And at this time, we'd like to turn it back to Candy to have her give a little history of the quilts.
Over the years, we've done 49 quilts. We didn't get started right in 1963 when the Women's Board began. It was a couple of years before they sort of got together and decided they'd have a quilt committee. Over the years, we've done 49 quilts. We didn't get started right in 1963 when the Women's Board began. It was a couple of years before they sort of got together and decided they'd have a quilt committee. But every year since then, until last year with COVID, we've had a quilt, and just it's a different group of women. We've had 67 women over the time who've worked on at least one quilt. 31 of them have worked over time on at least 3 quilts, and some of them many more. I've worked on 39 of those quilts. This is the quilt that we're auctioning this year. It's made out of vintage feed sack material. It's an old type of fabric that was created in the 1930s, late 1939. And after the Depression, people their clothes were wearing out, they couldn't get anything new. So the grain companies in the United States took all of their sacks that they normally put grain in a burlap sack, and they started printing on fabric. This quilt is all feed sack. It's all vintage, probably 130 years old. These squares you can't get anymore. This fabric is all something that is multi-purposed, and we've made it into a quilt for the Women's Board. And it just happened to be perfect for COVID because you could just take home a couple of these squares and sew all the pieces together and come up with the perfect quilt for our group. The Women's Board has raised $125,000, the Women's Board Quilt Committee, for various angel auctions over time. It's been something that we take great pride in, the fact that we could take old scraps of fabric and come up with something that sells for $5,000. It's a nice way for us to give something to the hospital.
Well, welcome back. So the quilt that Candy showed you in her interview, if you are interested in bidding on that item, that is one of our more exclusive items and will be live on Friday. So our online auction is now live, all of our silent items, services, and experiences, but we do have a handful of exclusive items, including the quilt, and those will go live on Friday. So be sure to check out our website, CallingAllAngels2021.org. Get your bids in, purchase your merchandise, buy your raffle ticket, make a donation, or name your angel. We also wanted to thank our Women's Board Angel Auction Committee and all of our donors and sponsors. Proceeds from this virtual week go toward patient care initiatives at Altman Hospital. We also want to note that all of our donors are listed in our program, which is also housed on our website. So again, just a quick reminder, CallingAllAngels2021.org is our website.
Thank you, Jody. And also on Friday, in addition to the quilt, Jody and I are going to be going over and sharing with you all of our exclusive live items that go live Friday morning. So we're going to have a lot of fun doing that and sharing with you. Thank you so much for everyone that joined us today. Thank you again to the Women's Board. Thank you for all of your support. And we look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow. We have an amazing day lined up as our theme is healing and hope. And you will get the opportunity to hear from patients, family members, as they share their stories and have a guest live in the studio. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to turn it back over to Francesca, who is going to take us out with her beautiful music.